You are listening to Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode of Season 3 Digging In Podcast. I'm your host, John Savarino, and I am joined by the one, the only, formerly known as Joseph Mateja. I know him as Joe Baggs. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, John. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you. Joe, you've had maybe a life change recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I have had a life change. So we were a family of 3, now a family of 4. So baby Emma is with us 16 weeks or so now.
Okay.
Growing like a weed, laughing, giggling, doing all the things. God bless my wife. She is a she is a saint.
God bless Sarah. How's Avery taking Emma in? How's that been?
So Avery is, for those that don't know, Avery is 6.5,
Okay.
right? So old enough to help.
Yeah.
But refuses to change diapers. She's a wonderful gopher.
Okay, good.
Go get us a burp cloth. Go get the binky. Go do this. Go do that. Wants to be in Emma's face all the time. Makes her laugh. She's awesome.
That's really cute. That's awesome, man. Well, congrats on the family of 4. So,
thank you.
How, from an ignorant perspective, like, are you sleeping? Like, how's that work?
Sarah's a saint. Yes,
God bless
I
Sarah.
am there for moral support. Love you, babe. And I'm also a gopher. I'm a glorified gopher, but I do change diapers. Side note, actually, this is probably a really good connection to the firm. So, I try to teach Avery a little bit about money, right? And I have been. And, whenever I find like a coin on the ground or something, I always come home, give it to Avery. She puts it in her piggy bank. Well, now there's 2. So now if I find something, I have to tell Avery, hey, you got to share with Emma, right? You split it up. So in the beginning, Avery was not as smart on this, and she would always keep the pennies and give Emma all the silver.
Oh, okay.
Since then, she has learned that, well, wait a minute, a penny is 1, a quarter is 25. So it's flip-flopped. So Emma is now, she's caught up a little bit, but Avery is blowing her away right now. She's keeping all the silver.
Atta girl, I'm proud. Way to get it figured out.
Yep.
No, that's super cool, man. And just to reiterate, God bless Sarah.
Yeah.
I think for those of you that don't know, a lot of our clients do know, like Joe, he's the epitome of whatever it takes. If there's a question of getting something done, I'm not questioning that when it comes to Joe. So we know, professionally speaking, Joe is really doing whatever it takes when it comes to assisting and supporting your family, of course. But just really cool and super excited for you guys. So knowing that, Joe, let's just do a quick shameless plug. So, as you guys see me in this seat as the new host of Digging In, maybe this is a great way to introduce Joe as the new host of Talking Money. So I know he's got really big shoes to fill.
I do.
That's going to leave our few viewers of Talking Money with some tears in the eyes, but I know that Talking Money is going to be in great hands even after some discussion with Joe. So maybe just in a quick minute, Joe, putting you on the spot here, but tell us a little bit about maybe some content that you have planned for Talking Money and how excited you are to take it over.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. Transparently, I'm excited that I only have to be on camera for 2 or 3 minutes at a time, right? I don't envy you in that chair. But yeah, I do have some big shoes to fill. John, I think you did an amazing job. I always looked forward to watching your videos. And I hope to live up to those expectations. And yeah, I do have some content ready to go. If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to be recording some later today, actually. But I want to dive in a little bit to I think we're going to talk about some income planning as it relates to, taxes, market performance, et cetera. Where should I pull money from? We're going to talk a little bit about risk tolerance, thinking along the lines of, how much risk does somebody actually need to be taking? Sometimes how much risk someone wants to take can be maybe not enough or maybe too much, right? Yeah. So we're going to talk about that a bit. We'll talk a little bit about what it means to plan for retirement. What does it really mean? What are the pieces of that puzzle? So just a little teaser there, but I think we've got 8 or 10 episodes to record, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for you. I think you have a ton of good topics and content prepared, and I think one of the exciting things that Joe's going to bring to the table is just continuing small bites, right? Small chunks, trying to take a very complicated and overwhelming topic and just breaking it down for our viewers in a very simple, almost layman's terms type of way. I'm really looking forward to seeing the new Talking Money in those episodes, and I think that's a really good segue for really what we want to talk about today on our episode of Digging In, and really what I want to hear from your perspective. And obviously as another lead advisor, I can chime in as we see fit. But what we really want to illustrate to our listeners and our viewers is like, what is the journey like from day one, like of hearing about Rooted Wealth Advisors? Who the heck are they? What do they do to not only becoming a client, right? Taking a really big step in someone's lives that we don't take lightly, and maybe even touching on like, what does it look like after that hard decision has been made? So Joe, maybe a good segue here, good first question is like, how do people hear about us? How do they find out about Rooted Wealth Advisors?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that people can and have an opportunity to learn about us. Mm-hmm. I think that, if I had to boil it down to say the top, 2 or 3, John would be, our dinner workshops, right? Where transparently, we'll send out an invitation. Yeah. Right. You get something in the mail, come out for a free steak and listen to John, talk for an hour. Yeah. About, some risks that we take in retirement and some things to be thinking about. Beyond that, we do our 2-day, 4-hour event, workshops, educational events, typically at a library. Yeah. More of an educational format. I like to have mine be a little bit more engaging, a little bit more back and forth. And then, finally, I think something that I'm super, super proud and appreciative of is, our clients, right? Our clients are not afraid to share us with those that they know and care about and, come across. So, referrals is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I think so, not only like referrals are going to be just almost, I would say half of who we help is coming from those that we've already helped. And that's just a testament to, earlier conversations that I've had with, Zach, the owner and founder, is how are we elevating, the value that we bring to not only clients, but back to the workshops, right? Whether it's educational at a library where we are going 4 to 5 hours deep, just teaching folks, right? Of like, what do you need to be doing to prepare for retirement? Like we are uncovering every single stone. And I would say 90% of the time when people leave, they go, wow, that was way more valuable information than I was ever expecting. And not everyone's gonna, become a client, but to hear that feedback, and I know that Joe and myself and even Connor out in our Denver location, like our goal is to connect, right? I want to connect with people on a level that they've never experienced before. But no matter what happens after this workshop, I want them to leave, even if it's 1 or 2 big takeaways, then that's huge. And even the dinner, right? Yeah, there's a steak involved, and there's always going to be folks that want the free steak, right? Sure. That's part of it. But we really try and bring a lot of valuable information in a really short window of time to folks. And I think it just shines through. I've seen you present many times, and I'm like, man, like not only does this guy know what the heck he's talking about, he cares for every single person in that room. And man, like it's actually been really cool to see both of us. We've both kind of grown in these, educational presenting roles.
Yep.
And it's just kind of fun as I think back a couple years ago.
It's a blast. It's a blast. Transparently, I used to, get up in front of that room, and because I'm so passionate about helping, and I want to give that value. I love that word, John. I want to provide value. My time is valuable, but the folks that are showing up to listen to us and consume some knowledge, I want to make sure that I'm following through with that promise of value. I think that translates into, how we approach a visit with somebody. When they first come in, right? My goal is to provide them with value. I want to speak to what's on their mind, not what's on mine. I think that's something that separates us, right, from a lot of advisors out there, right? The approach that I take is that of, what do you want to talk about? I don't have any, preconceived agenda or, path that I want to, steer down. I want to have the conversation that they want to have, right?
Huge point, Joe. So let's just assume that they're meeting us in person, one-on-one from a workshop.
Right.
And I think there's typically a guard up coming into those meetings because maybe they've gone to a workshop before and transparently had a product shoved down their throat, not actually bringing value, and they feel that it's coming, right?
Yep.
And then we set the expectation in that initial visit. It's super casual, right? We want to know what's at top of your mind. What are the questions, goals, concerns? Once I start to dig in and unpack someone's situation, not to say it's easy to identify, but there's always holes, right? There's always gaps that need to be filled. But that's not the time, or at least that first 10 to 15 minutes, not the time to bring it up. I want to know what's most important to you. And before we even take that a step further, I want to back the bus up a little bit because it's not just Joe, myself, Zach, Connor, any of the advisors. It's Jacqueline and soon to be Sarah that, we want to bring value, but what I love about, them, Javon, Ken, Samantha, they want to create a memorable experience, right, for folks that come to our workshops or presentations, whether it's when you first talk to Javon, Samantha, Jacqueline on the phone to confirm you're attending or coming into the office. Maybe it's when you first initially meet Jacqueline, Emily, Andrew, Jason, like Logan, whoever it is. Like that's the type of experience that we want people to have that they've never felt before coming to a workshop. And so it's just a true testament to the team that it's not just us helping create this value and experience.
I truly and genuinely believe that we are trying to create a wow experience, right? I want folks to leave a visit every time, whether it's a first visit, a second, or someone that's been a client for 4 years. I want them to leave that conversation thinking, wow, every time. And I think that's something, that's a tall ask, right? But, just like you mentioned, whether it's myself, you, Connor, everybody on the team, feels that same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so taking kind of this journey a little bit further together, so we get to know each other, right, on a much deeper level than I think people are expecting, right? I know, I can't truly help someone with what they've worked so hard for their entire lives for if I don't know them as a person, right? What makes them tick? And I think that really surprises a lot of people when we start to dig in on those types of things. And I know you do a really great job of that, Joe. But as we start to go further, obviously we're trying to unpack the situation. We're trying to not only speak to what's important to them, but we're also trying to identify those gaps and show them what needs to be done to fill them. Because it's not always, hey, it's a bad situation, but it can be just a few subtle tweaks can make it a whole lot better.
I would even take it a step further, John, and say that, my goal is to not just show folks where they are, but also kind of unpack where they can be, what's possible. I like that. I'm reminded of a story of a client that wanted to buy an airplane.
Okay.
And you pilot for years, going to retire. Oh gosh, I'd love to have an airplane. It's a dream, but I know it can't happen. Right. So then it kind of became a challenge for me as to say, well, what if it could? Is it possible?
Yeah.
So, after some back and forth discussion, what does that look like? How much is it going to cost? What's maintenance going to look like? What do you want? Then it was, okay, let's go back to planning and see, can this really happen? And in this case, it could. And this client was just blown away. Like, no way. I never thought that I could own my own airplane. And this was a while back, and I had a review with this client, and they shared with me, not only are they going to buy this plane, but he's already got a number of different trips planned. It's all planned out, right? He is just in awe of what he's been able to provide for himself without even realizing it. Right. So those are the types of stories. And maybe it's not an airplane for somebody, right? Maybe it's an RV. Maybe it's just a golf trip to, Europe. Maybe whatever that is.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I just absolutely love being able to do for folks and show them how to make this happen.
That's pretty cool. And no one's sitting here with me, but I can feel that passion. And that's cool. I mean, that's showing up different right there for our clients, because the bottom line is always important, right? And we don't forget that. But what's possible with that bottom line, we're here to help dig that up and unpack what is possible. So let's just real briefly, when it comes down to, making the decision, right? We realize how hard that decision can be. So maybe just peel a few layers back when it comes to making that decision of what are we thinking about from a client's perspective?
Yeah, I think, and I encourage folks all the time to, do business with somebody they feel a connection to, somebody that they know, they like, and they trust. And, I'm not afraid to tell somebody, hey, maybe I'm not your guy. Maybe you don't like my face, right? Whatever that reason is. And that's fine. I want to give value no matter what. So that's always the priority. But beyond that, I think that, the way that I like to put it, John, I speak in analogies, but I want to do business with somebody that I feel or would feel comfortable with having lunch together, right? And I tell folks, if you don't picture yourself wanting to have lunch with me, maybe this isn't a good fit.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for that connection, right? I think, the data will be there, the planning will be there, all of those pieces of the puzzle, all of the tangibles will be there.
Right.
But I want that connection, right? That's what I'm looking for as an advisor. And in my experience in, the last 13, 14 years of doing this, I've found that that's what most people are looking for. And I think that it's unfortunate that most people don't realize that opportunity exists. I think most people walk into planning for retirement with a numbers perspective, right? What are the X's and O's doing?
Yep.
But it's so much more than X's and O's.
Yeah. Wow. I echo all of what you just said. Pretty incredible there. And I think, once that decision's been made, moving forward, Joe and I are pretty similar in this is yes, the numbers, the data is always important. It's always going to be discussed and it's going to be reviewed upon in terms of what is the bottom line. But I think most of my review process with my clients, besides strategizing on an annual basis and all of those different things, is from a plan perspective, is the train on the track, right?
Yep.
As long as the train is on the track and we're going to be quote unquote okay, then that's the most important box to be checked. Now, we're not silly enough or ignorant enough to say that the train doesn't come off the track. So then if it is off the track, what I try and do is not only just how do we get it back on, but we really need to dig in a lot deeper to say, how did the train get off the tracks, right? Because there's going to be some underlying things there, and then approach it to say, what's the correction? But man, Joe, it's an incredible journey for someone. When you first think back to, it can be even daunting going to the workshop.
Sure.
But then to have the courage to say, you know what, maybe I don't need help, but I want some help. To have that courage, take that next step, to see how different we are at Rooted Wealth Advisors, and then, the rest is just testimony of what we do.
I think it's that unwavering question, what's possible?
What's possible?
Right? What's possible?
That's what we want to leave our viewers with. Think about what's possible, genuinely. What do you think is possible? And maybe even think a little bit bigger than what you're thinking today. So, we're going to wrap things up. If that's a conversation that you want to continue or have with whether it's Joe, myself, Connor, Zach, like another advisor on our team, please give our office a call. It's 866-766-8332. In addition to that, Zach Gray, the owner and founder of our firm, he has wrote a new Amazon best-selling book called Deep Roots. If you would like a free copy of that book, go to deeprootsbook.com to request your free copy of, once again, an Amazon bestseller. This has been another episode of the Digging In podcast. We'll be with you soon.
This was Digging In Podcast, presented by Rooted Wealth Advisors.